Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Scotland has got a massive mental health problem, and it's something you could possibly even make light of. You could say, well, it's not bloody surprising, living there, drive you mad, and all that. But we're genuinely here. This is genuine concern. Mental health is often um, underprepared for. It's not understood very well, that's for sure. Often underfunded. And it seems to be almost embarrassing. Some people don't like to even talk about mental health. I've been there. I've had mental health issues over the years, depression and anxiety, things like this. I've been there, had it. I've come through the other side. It's a journey, and it's hard. And so I do appreciate when other people have issues, stress related with job or family, health, that kind of thing, plus other actual sort of long term chronic conditions. Very, very difficult to deal with. It does need professional care. Often it needs psychoactive medications. These things work. Keep taking the pills. But Scotland has got the biggest problem of all. It's got the highest proportion of people who are suffering from mental health issues, whether it mental illness or mental disease, mental anxieties, all sorts of things across the board. In fact, it has more than doubled. The number of people suffering has more than doubled in a decade. And this is where I say this is entirely the fault of the SNP. A lot of mental problems are caused by environment. They are environmentally induced mental issues. And when you're living in a country that is consistently failing as a state, where life is consistently getting harder, where poverty is increasing, misery is increasing, it's no wonder mental issues increase, particularly depression. People self-medicate, that puts them down a spiral. And the SNP have, for their entire 17 years of running Scotland, constantly underfunded mental health care. And that has now come to the point where the rate in Scotland is the highest of anywhere in Britain by a large margin. New data shows that 617,000 people report having mental health conditions that affect them. This is over 10% of the population. I think it's coming out about roughly about 11.5% of the population. This is a worse, how can we put it? Pandemic, really. It's a pandemic of mental illness. But I'm going to suggest that most of it is a direct result of SNP policies. And it is so debilitating and so damaging. But no one will take responsibility for it. It's not any one department, of course. Yes, sure, it's mental health. It comes under the health department, but it's caused by finance. So the Treasury and all that, they've got to take it. It's caused by environmental conditions. So Greens, job, all sorts. There are so many things that contribute. It's got to be holistic when you're blaming. It's not just any one person or one part of the SNP government. It's the whole thing. It's there. It is now the second biggest health concern in Scotland after heart conditions. Pneumonia coronary first, mental health second, cancer third. It's now a bigger problem than cancer. And what the SNP doing about it? Well, good old Shona Robison has decided that the best way to deal with this burgeoning, blooming problem of mental health in Scotland is to cut funding even further. Because I think for her, the idea of people being happy, content, and free from anxiety is horrendous. And so they keep pushing things that will make things worse. Let's get rid of 250,000 jobs because that's great for people's mental health. Let's introduce poverty. Let's remove access to medicine and care. Because again, that's brilliant for people who are suffering from these conditions. You make them ill and then you deny them the care they need. I'm pretty sure that that falls as a crime against humanity. I genuinely think, I'm not saying this for effect, I genuinely think if you have a government that goes out of its way to harm its own people and then denies access to be able to soften that harm, that has got to be a crime. Constant reduction of funds for mental health and physical health, and often the two are linked. Poor mental health leads to physical conditions. Poor physical health can lead to mental conditions. The two are inextricably linked. Anyone will know this. Anyone with half a brain knows this. And that's what this government in Scotland are doing. They are denying access to care. It is no wonder that aligned with these figures is the fact that suicide is the highest of anywhere in Europe. It is the self-ending capital of Europe. And you can see why. People down, depressed, nowhere to turn to, no means of escaping. They either blow their brains out with pharmaceuticals, alcohol, or other means. They'll, OD on aspirins, throw themselves in front of trains. And it's all the fault of the SNP. There's no denying. This is not the fault of Westminster. This is not the fault of Brexit. This is 17 years of SNP policy. And it's coming home. These chickens are coming home to roost, and they don't like what they're being told. And they're denying it. It's bad enough across the rest of Britain and that. 5% on average in the rest of Britain. 11.5% in Scotland. Why is Scotland more than twice as bad? If it isn't because Scotland's run by the SNP. Because if it was Westminster, it'd be the same figures everywhere. But it isn't. So if you know someone who has mental conditions, just be kind. Talk to them. If you're a man, particularly men, don't talk. If you're a man and you've got a mate and he's down, he's depressed or whatever, talk to him. You might just save his life. And don't vote SNP. That will definitely save lives. Thank you very much.